Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us talking team and hosted by Eamonn Barclay, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
It's Friday night. I'm your host, Eamonn Barclay, and I have the No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, James Kelly, and Ted Robinson.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Bethany,
how's it going? You back to work yet?
Yeah, hiya. Not back to work just yet. Back on the 15th when all the other stores are supposed to be opening, so I can get back to some kind of normality eventually. I just can't wait to get back in. I'm fed up now.
Oh, that's a little bit different to what you told me earlier on. You were telling me you was going to get back to normality, and I thought you'd introduced a new word to the English language.
Well, we can make it one. We've done it here tonight. You've heard it here first.
That's it.
Hashtag normality. Get it trending. That's
it. Bethany's there with normality. How about you, James? You still working hard?
Yeah, hi, Eamonn. Yeah, still working from home. Not too sure how much longer for, but I'm really enjoying it. Really having fun, just cracking on with it from the pleasure of my own living room. It would be nice to get some sort of normality back.
It's normality, come on, James.
Normality, sorry.
Yes.
Sooner rather than later, but yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, that'll be good. Is normality turning up for you, Ted?
Quite often, Eamonn. Yeah, quite often. I'm surprised that's the first time you've heard it.
Yeah.
I'm back to work on Monday myself, so that'd be nice to actually get back and start earning a living again, as they say. But it seems I've forgotten what I have to do.
Oh well, there's always a book that tells you those things, doesn't it? Yeah. Don't forget your torch though, because it can be a bit dark in places you go.
Yes, true. Yeah. Very true.
Very true.
Are you talking about my social life, or are you talking about my work?
I didn't know about that bit, but if you want to talk about that another time, yes, that would be good. Anyway, I'm delighted as well. We have the pleasure of welcoming back Karl Bates of BBC Radio fame and Millwall IFollow commentator. He's the man that made Jeff Burnage, and I understand also Ted Robinson jealous about his experience on Countdown. As you know, I think Karl won a teapot with a clock in the middle of it. The thing that made Jeff and Ted jealous was that he had his photo taken with a Rachel O'Reilly. How have you been coping in lockdown?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you, Eamonn. Obviously, it's very strange circumstances that we find ourselves in, but homeschooling my son has been eventful, but good fun overall. We've learned a lot from each other, shall we say, and I've been really proud of him. It's strange, but I'm looking forward to finally coming out of lockdown, which seems to be getting closer and closer.
Yeah, can't be far away now, that's for sure. And of course you've added that additional skill to your belt as well, which is a bonus.
True.
Earlier this week, Steve Kavanagh, our CEO, said, "We're now on a pathway to getting back to playing, but it's important to note that there are still some pivotal steps to go through before we're all able to resume the season. The Lions return to training on Tuesday." Well, there is much going on with regard to football returning to the Premiership on Wednesday the 17th of June. Karl, sounds like you could be busy soon. When do you anticipate the return to football in the Championship will happen?
And I'd imagine the Championship will be very soon after. Probably the weekend, 21st. I think the Championship will definitely be coming back. I think one of the hold-ups with the Premier League was the fact that the teams down the bottom thought it would be unfair if the Championship stops where it is. And for example, Leeds and West Brom are promoted, but the team in the Premier League have to fight for survival, and those that don't go down when the teams below them just get to sit back with their feet up and get promoted. And I think that was one of the key issues, and that was almost to an extent forcing the Championship's hand. But there's so many teams involved in and around the playoffs. It had to be finished. It just simply had to be.
Evening, Karl. What do you see as the remaining hurdles for the Championship restarting?
I think most of it will be logistics, in all honesty, trying to get teams to and from stadiums, because obviously the coaches themselves will be half empty. You can't have a full team coach anymore, so a lot of people will be travelling in their own cars. Obviously then you've got your staff, your physios, etc. Some grounds like Millwall, we're very lucky. We've got a nice big car park there. We've got plenty of room within the stadium, because obviously you've got to compensate the press as well. So like for the likes of myself, there's plenty of room in the press area for us all to sit. You've got the gantry for the TV cameras. Written press, there'll be room around the ground, I'm sure. But then you go to some grounds like Luton, for example, where the ground has very little, space, should we say, in and around it. So that will be a nightmare trying to get people in and out of there. And also within the ground, I'm not entirely sure how they'll be able to do that. So I'd imagine they will be the main issues, trying to get everything up and running again as quick as possible.
Yes, that Luton ground is certainly tight.
Hey Karl, are there any arrangements in place for you to deliver the Millwall IFollow commentary upon the restart?
Nothing concrete as yet. I mean, there will be, I'm sure, some sort of IFollow commentary. It just depends in what way, shape or form. Whether that be myself doing home and away games, whether that be myself just covering Millwall at the Den, and when Millwall go on the road, we link into their IFollow commentary from their ground, or whether that even, depending on the ground, if they actually come inside the ground, just the cameras, and then send the feed through to somebody in the studio and they commentate from there. So there will be IFollow commentary, I'm sure, just in exactly what way. Not 100% sure yet, but the general consensus is to try and get people within the ground to commentate on the games.
Great stuff.
Right, Karl, we think we're in with a chance of reaching the playoffs, or we know we're in with a chance of reaching the playoffs and breaking into the top flight. Karl, you watch us week in, week out. After the way we was playing at the end, just before the lockdown, what do you reckon about our chances of getting into the playoffs?
But it did come at a bad time for Millwall. I mean, wonderful victory away at Notts Forest. Totally deserved. I mean, Forest didn't know what hit them in the first half an hour. Millwall just swamped them in the middle of the park and, ran out deserved and fairly easy winners, really. You're looking at the run-in. We've got 9 games to go. We're playing teams right down the bottom. I know, that can prove problematic for Millwall. We do tend to like taking on the big boys. But, I mean, we've got 5 games at home. We're only leaving the capital twice. We've got Barnsley and Hull. So obviously QPR and Charlton we travel to. The games look, obviously, on a piece of paper, easier said than done, but they do look favourable for Millwall. But without that, shall we say, home advantage, it will be in theory, because it will be playing at the Den, but without the fans behind them, maybe that's took a bit of a spark off it. But that'll be down to Gary and his team to make sure that the players are 100% motivated, because to only be 2 points off the playoffs with the running that we've got a chance. There's no question about that. We have a genuine chance of making the playoffs.
And just before we take a break, I want us just to reflect on the sad loss that was heard about this week of Christian Mbulu, who was one of our under-23 players who never broke into the first team, but he left us a couple of years to go to get first team experience and improve his skills and get back up into the pyramid. Christian had gone to Morecambe playing in League 2, and we heard earlier this week that he'd sadly passed away at the age of 23 years. We like to extend our sincere condolences to Christian's family and friends, many of whom are Millwall players, and remember him well. R.I.P. Christian Mbulu. We'll take a break there and listen to Bethany's dulcet tones about Love Sport Radio.
Bethany Warren here again. Thank you for listening to our show. Don't forget, Love Sport Radio is now mothballed pending change in current pandemic conditions. Love Sport are still running previous programmes, and you can hear some programmes on demand online. You can still listen to repeat programmes both online and on DAB. Hopefully we'll be back on the air with them quickly when conditions improve. In the meantime, watch out for our podcast adverts on Facebook and Twitter. Our podcast show links are available on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, YouTube, Spreaker, iTunes, SoundCloud and Pinterest.
We're back and I have the No One Likes Us talking team of Bethany Warren, James Kelly and Ted Robinson, plus BBC and Millwall IFollow commentator Karl Bates with us. Next up is the review of the Millwall top 20 goal scorers of this century, as produced by Bringing Stats Alive Football, who you can find on Facebook and who produce fantastic visualisations of statistics. You have to use your lips to say that properly. This week in joint 15th place and being one of four with 17 goals is former Millwall captain and current Millwall under-23s coach Paul Robinson, who is also the first defender on the list. What do we reckon? How about you, Ted?
Well, Robbo's not one that springs to mind as a goal scorer, as we know, as a fantastic defender and a fantastic captain for our club. But the goals that he has scored for this great football club has been important ones at times, and especially none more important than a playoff final, which he scored. And also, if we remember rightly, he scored in a semi-final against Huddersfield, a great header from across from a corner. And so, I mean, it's a difficult one. You could put Robbo into all three categories, because I think he was goal hanging a bit for the goal in the playoff final. But it's classic goals, and goals that have won important games. So I would say a great goal scorer for us.
Well, that's wonderful. How about you, James?
Yeah, again, a great goal scorer, mainly because of the importance of what he achieved. It's hard to be a goal hanger when you're a centre back. But the goals that he scored, for example, Huddersfield in the playoff semi-final second leg, which took us to the final, and then obviously his goal against Swindon, which took us back to the Championship, are just two of the goals that he scored, which were incredibly important to us in our seasons.
Bethany?
Yeah, I mean, as the others have said, Paul Robinson is a great player, another Millwall legend, Millwall hero. Big guy, seemed dangerous in the box and would put his head to anything. I think he put his head to a brick wall if it meant scoring for us. I don't remember him for being a goal scorer. In my head, I'd see him as, a great defender. But
even though he got some great goals.
Yeah, he got great goals. But then I'd also say the same, for example, Jake Cooper. He's got some great goals, but I wouldn't put him as a goal scorer in my head.
No.
So, love the guy. I love Paul Robinson. It's so good to have him back with the under-23s.
I've got to say, Eamonn, as well, he is a fantastic guy, Robbo, and if ever there was anyone that you wanted to score a winning goal at Wembley in a final for you, Robbo's the sort of guy that deserves it more than most, to be quite honest. He's been a fantastic, loyal captain and leader at our football club, and that moment has cemented him in as a legend in my eyes.
Carl, you've heard what the guys have said about Paul Robinson. How would you see him? As a goal hanger, a good goal scorer, a great goal scorer?
Well, for me, great goal scorers are people that they're your strikers. They're your 20, 30 goals a season. So I'd class him as a good goal scorer from that perspective. But that isn't to take away anything from Robbo in the penalty area. I mean, we've all seen the goals he's scored in that playoff semi-final against Huddersfield, and obviously the 2-yard screamer against Swindon in the final. And also, he's one of those players that seem to be able to attract defenders away from him. We've seen it this season with Cooper. Cooper's only got one goal this season, but due to his presence in the area, the likes of Hutchinson, etc., have managed to up their tally and score a few more. And, I mean, Robbo now working with the 23s, if anybody's going to teach them how to head a ball in the defensive or an attacking third, he's your man. I mean, I think he was only just over 6 foot, but it never felt like that when he was in the penalty area. I mean, the goal against Huddersfield, the cross comes in, it's exactly what you want. He's up early, over 2 or 3 players, and wonderful connection into the back of the net. So I'd class him as a good goal scorer.
There's another little bit that I need to add, and that's about 2 young lads who are making their way in the academy. That's Rhys Stone, who we heard from, or his father, a few weeks back, and also Cullum Cowley. Both are worthy of a bit of a shout out here tonight. They signed their academy contracts this week. There were some photographs of Rhys on Twitter, and I suspect we'll see some of Cullum. But that may be the first of many contracts that both you lads sign, and we look forward to see you performing Rhys Stone and Cullum Cowley. All the best for the future, lads. John Berylson, Millwall's chairman, responded to questions posed by fans, and a video was recently released on the club website. Here is the second of those questions. What have been the biggest challenges since getting involved with Millwall? And with thanks to Millwall FC, let's hear what John had to say.
A number of challenges. One is, of course, the old reputation of the team. It caused issues in terms of recruiting players, recruiting managers, including recruiting management, because everybody had locked Millwall into the 1960s. And I think there are a number of players who didn't want to play for us, who I spoke to. There are a number of players who just wouldn't even return phone calls, or agents wouldn't even consider it in the past. That's changed, as you can see in the quality of the club at the moment. In managers, quite frankly, when I first started recruiting the first manager I brought to the club, Kenny Jackett, it took maybe as long as a month to convince him to come. And I was with his current manager at Man City on our side completely, and telling him to come and join us. But I think that was a real challenge, getting over what I consider the old reputation, the old instability, the lack of stability in the club, and bringing the best quality people into the club. That I think is past, as you can see. I think the managers from Kenny, Neil, Holloway, people with big reputations have come here, Gary now, to manage the club. I think the players we have and the young players have come. I think Scott Fitzgerald is doing a magnificent job recruiting younger players, and I hope it's gotten easier for him. In terms of the players we have and the players we go into the transfer window now, the conversation is about money, not about Millwall, which is a pleasant change, because 10 years ago it was about Millwall, whether in fact they would play for Millwall. Now it's, will we pay the price, not pay the price, what their weekly wages are or not. And frankly, there are just a lot of people out there who do want to play for Millwall, and especially in the last year or two, where I think we've shown our stability, and people know how well we've treated the club and the players, management. I think there are a lot of people who wish they were Millwall players today as opposed to where they are. Because I think we as a management team, and here I would give credit to Steve, who's been my key advisor on what to do during these times, which was basically as much as we can treat people fairly and correctly. And I think that's what we've done across the board. We obviously, in a time where there are no revenues coming into the club, it's very difficult. But we start with what's the right thing to do, and then try to do that as a club. In addition, another problem I've had is with the regulations of the leagues that we've been in. Every time I've been at games, whether it's Steve or Con or Trevor or Peter Garston, someone's whispering in my ear, John, they have 3 times, 4 times the payroll, and they've done this, they've done that. They're paying this guy 100,000 pounds a week. They're paying this guy 75,000 pounds a week, and that's a problem. And there are existing rules and regulations, and no one seems to be obeying them. The financial reality of what's going on today, I think, is going to change things, so that people are going to be forced to start being, as we are, start obeying the rules of the game, stop looking for the loopholes, stop having twice as many players on the roster as we are, stop having these massive payrolls. A lot of these teams, as you know, are boom or bust, and that's nuts, because think of what it does to the fan base of that team. So I look forward to the day that we're all forced to behave similarly in terms of how we build our teams, similar financial structures, and I'm actually kind of tired of teams finding ways around the rules. We have seen all sorts of gimmicks done in the last year or two. I look forward to when those gimmicks are not being done anymore and we're just doing the right thing, which is going out there, getting the players, paying them, getting the best managers you can for the team, getting the best coaches, and play the game, as opposed to all this financial gimmickry and nonsense that's gone on in the past. So that's been a problem because we have gone by the rules as they stated every single year. We do not try to get around them, and as we all know, a lot of the other clubs have. So when we're at even footing and or closer to that, I look forward to how Millwall will play because as it is, we're a very strong team. In 8th place, 1 point out of 7th place, I think 2 points out of 6th place. And just imagine when people are forced to obey the rules and there are real consequences for their actions in the future. So that's been a problem in the past. I hope it won't be in the future.
Ted, did you think that what JB stated about making Millwall attractive to players, managers, staff, and in my own head, sponsors too, rung true with your experience as a long-term standing? Well, you're a sitting fan now, you're not a standing one. A long-term sitting fan.
Long-term sitting fan, yeah. It rang true to me what John was saying. I mean, by the way, as I've said before, a fantastic chairman at John Berylson. We're so grateful to have a guy like him. But what he was saying was basically, when he came here, he had problems attracting people to Millwall for whatever the reasons that people see on the outside of it. We all love Millwall from the inside and can't understand why nobody would want to come and play for us or anything like that. But John stated it quite rightly, I think, that there was this sort of stigma around Millwall and it was a struggle to get people to come here. And it's credit to John that he has broken that down, and we do have not only players but managers that want to actually work for Millwall Football Club now, and that's a massive plus for John in his time as being a chairman, because he has made us that attractive proposition. And by the way, if I was a manager in football today and somebody said to me, with the way that there are chairmen across the country and that you could go and work for John Berylson in my line of work as a manager, I'd be over the moon, because John Berylson must be the best chairman that you could ever have as a manager. He leaves you alone, he lets you get on with it, he's loyal to you. In that sense, I think he's a perfect chairman for a manager. But to his credit, he's the one that's made us attractive, and we've reaped the benefits of it through the quality of players that we've got and the quality of managers we've got. So fair play to John Berylson for that.
Job well done by John Berylson. Karl, sitting on the outside and looking in for many years, do you feel that what John Berylson and Ted have stated has married up to your perception of the club in the past? And how has that measured up since you have experienced the club at close hand as our week in, week out commentator?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Ted and John have said in regards to the club. I mean, John's done a great job behind the scenes. He's sort of almost quietly gone about his business, but it's been really impressive to see. I mean, he doesn't overspend. He's not throwing silly money at X, Y, and Z. He's almost proud of the fact that Millwall are running on an even keel. There's a lot of work being done behind the scenes that people don't see or don't want to see to an extent. People like to give Millwall the tag of typical Millwall, so on and so on. So it's like it or not, Millwall are in inverted commas changing for the better, so to speak, and they are being shown in a better light. And because Millwall should be shown in a better light, the work that they're doing behind the scenes, Family Club of the Year a few years back, a lot of work for charity, and obviously we've seen the work that they've helped get behind in regards various charity events. You've seen over social media the club getting behind certain fans, players, staff, anybody's doing anything in the community, the club's right behind them. And, it's good to see. It's nice to be able to, when people say, oh, yeah, you're working with Millwall, you follow Millwall, this, that and the other, to be able to stand their chest out and just throw facts back at them more than just passion. So I enjoy that about Millwall, and I really have been impressed with John. I've only met him once, I must admit, but you could have sat there and spoke to him for hours. He wasn't in a hurry. He was just chatting to you as an equal, which is rare when you meet people of his level within football clubs.
Yeah, that's true. Bethany, John highlighted the issue of financial regulation in the league and how this has been abused by people finding ways around the regs. Do you think that in light of the current situation of clubs struggling to survive, things are likely to change or not?
Personally, I don't think they're going to change. I think more clubs will be looking for ways to get around the system. I know we mentioned earlier, made a great point about, the worst punishment is to get points taken off of clubs. But I genuinely think it's going to get worse. I don't see it happening. I think if clubs bend the rules, they need to actually get punished properly for it, rather than just a slap on the wrist and say, be better next time.
Take their heads off. Yes, I get what you're saying there, yeah. That's a sort of a polite way of looking at it. But yeah, it does appear that the only way is to make them really realise that they can lose out by fiddling. And there's two clubs up at the moment, Ted, aren't there, who have been charged.
Yeah, I think it's Derby and Sheffield Wednesday. We had Birmingham, didn't we? And,
that's right, yeah.
It's difficult, as Bethany was saying, I think, or hinting at, that no matter what regulations you put in there, it's a bit of a scrupulous world, the old football game. People will find ways around what they can and can't do. And points deductions, I believe, is the best way of hurting, because if it leads to somebody getting relegated or whatever, then football clubs might start thinking about how far they're bending the rules. But it's difficult because they will continue to do it all the while they can, or they're allowed to. But if they can punish them people, then maybe the future football clubs will look or think twice about bending the rules as they have done.
And then we can send Bethany around with the regulator team and string them up, I suppose, eh?
Oh yeah, send me right round there.
James, if there was a challenge that you could add to John Berylson's list, what would it be?
Well, what he's talked about, he's spoken about the calibre of players, the calibre of managers that we'd hire, transfer fees, lease regulations. I think one thing I feel personally as a fan that needs to be addressed head on is the club shop and the stock that we have in it, because we've had issues where there's just not been enough. There's demand for replica shirts, merchandise from fans has just been too great to handle, and there's just not been enough, which has led to unhappy faces. That's my main issue that I feel needs to be addressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider our commercial benefit for last year in relation to Queen's Park Rangers, we were millions behind them, in fact, in terms of what our turnover was. So the club shop can feature in that, but I think everyone here has at some stage or other reflected upon what the club shop does or doesn't do, and I know there's been problems with how it's managed, how it's staffed. Ted, I remember the story about you not being able to get a shirt to fit you.
No, that wasn't me.
No, that was me. Sorry, Ted. I remember that.
No,
that's
but
me.
Eamonn, the bottom line is, with selling anything, you've got to have the stock available to yourselves, and all football shirts will sell themselves, which is the regular yearly thing that happens in football. They change their kits, as we know, and that's a bog standard thing that every football club's going to have. But as you were saying about QPR, what they've been selling, there'd be a lot more other than football shirts.
Yeah.
And in Millwall's club shop, there isn't anything other than football shirts, really. If you look at all the other stuff that they're trying to sell at the moment, you wouldn't buy it. It's just there's nothing there of any interest. They need to get somebody in there that's got the knowledge of what the fan base like to buy, and get it out there in that shop, and it will sell. It will sell. So, James is quite right to bring it up, because it's been poor for the last couple of years, and it certainly needs to be sorted out. And it's revenue inlet that's not doing anything for Millwall at the moment.
Bethany, looking over the diversity rainbow, how does it work for what's available for women?
The collection gets smaller and smaller each season. I think when I didn't have a season ticket for a couple of years. Then when I got back into it, I think it was the 2015-2016 season, and I bought a few things. And I thought, like they're really catering to the women. This is great. And each year, that section gets smaller and smaller and smaller, to the point where I was looking on the website the other day, and in the ladies section, it was 2 T-shirts. Now, I don't have a problem in wearing any of the men's stuff. That's absolutely fine. But if you're going to cater stuff to women, give me a better option than just 2 T-shirts. I want to see, I'd happily have some of the training stuff in like a women's cut or a women's fit, because they must be doing that for the Lionesses at some point.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see more that would fit me comfortably, and me to go, okay, that's quite flattering actually.
Them 2 T-shirts were better than all the men's stuff put together.
Yeah, there's some.
So I've got both of them. They're very nice.
You can't beat him when he's off. You can't. Anyhow, we'll take a break there and hear what you can do to help the Millwall Community Trust with Patricia Maslin.
Hi, Patricia Maslin here. The Millwall Community Trust needs volunteer help. Whether you're an organisation with bodies able to assist or an individual, the Trust needs you during the pandemic to support the vulnerable and the needy. If you can help make a difference, please contact Sean Daly, the Trust's Chief Executive Officer. You can contact him by phone on 07958 027060. Once again, that's 07958 027060. Or you can contact him by email, sdaly, that's SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. I'll repeat that, sdaly, spelt SDALY, at millwallcommunity, all one word, .org.uk. Thanks again if you think you may be able to help or you know someone who might.
James, we'll have to get you back on the adverts again to support advertising diversity, because we're certainly lacking something in the diversity rainbow there. Anyway, let's listen now to Gary Staff. Actually, he could do a bit of advertising, who caught up with one of our own, Kelly Webster.
Hello everyone, and I hope you're all keeping well and safe and sane in these crazy times. Today, as mentioned last week, I am with the Lionesses goalkeeper and Millwall Community Trust Ambassador, Kelly Webster. Kelly joined the Lionesses at the beginning of the season and was a regular up until the season unfortunately came to an abrupt end due to coronavirus. Last weekend, Kelly did the 21 Bridge Challenge, which is about 22 miles in memory of Jimmy Mizzen, and raised money for the Mizzen Foundation. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all well there.
Good. So last weekend, Kelly, you did the 21 Bridge Challenge, as I just mentioned. How did you get on?
It went really well, to be honest. My friend Jamie Chapman done it with me, so that all helps having someone with me along the way. I mean, we're both about the same sort of pace, so we did it in quite good time. We really wanted to do it because, to say, everything that's going on at the moment, with no events being held due to our current situation, I just think local charities and everything else are just not getting any money coming in, so decided to get on and try and do the challenge and raise as much money for the Mizzen Foundation as I possibly could. Basically, the walk started in 2013, which would have been Jimmy's 21st birthday, and obviously that's why they've had it as the 21 Bridges. We've raised so far just over 1,100, so we're doing pretty well. The pages are still open for donations if anyone does still want to donate.
That's great. So please get your credit cards out and donate. What did you see along the way, Kelly? Was it a hot? I can't remember. Was it a hot day last weekend?
We had sort of a bit of a mismatch of weather. I mean, both of us were in shorts and t-shirt. And first of all, when we was at Richmond, where it starts at the rugby club there, it was a little bit cold. But once we started getting moving, started warming up a little bit, and then we hit a rain shower. I think it was at Wandsworth Bridge, which was pretty cold. And then we had hailstones and even more rain a little bit further down, but we did dry out pretty quick.
I know it sounds like a silly question, but do you actually walk across each bridge, go along, come across the next one? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so we started at Richmond Rugby Club, and then you come out and get onto the river quite quickly. And I think the first bridge, obviously Richmond, you cross that bridge, and then you go up, and then you come across, I think it's Twickenham's the second one, and then you walk up, and you continually do that. So every bridge you come to, you actually cross, so you cross the 21 bridges.
Excellent. So how did you and the Missing Foundation get together? Was that through to the MCT, or was it a long time before then?
No, I've known Barry and Margaret for quite a long time. There used to be a six-a-side tournament that Terry Rhys set up quite a long time ago, and basically a lot of Millwall fans used to be in the six-a-side and raise money for the Missing Foundation then, and they used to come down and give out medals and whatever else at the end. So I started chatting to them from that, really.
Brilliant. And it's fantastic the work you've been doing for them. Kelly, you actually mentioned to me about some other people you wanted to mention.
A lot of people helped me, and we had a bit of a mess up with a few things like T-shirts that never came that we ordered, and basically my partner ended up doing the T-shirts on her own printer indoors for us, and I think she's done an amazing job. She sorted out the flag for us because we got let down with that, and then obviously, like any part, sent me off with making sure that I had water, everything ready. The other person I want to thank is George Mizzen for sorting out the route cards, everything else. He was there on call for me if I needed anything, and I'd like to thank him for that. And then Barry and Margaret for meeting us en route. It was amazing to see them. I know they just wanted to come down and thank us, but I think it helped us more than they can even imagine. Carly came out and gave us a few drinks and some sweets at Westminster, which really gave us a massive boost. And one of my friends, Dave, he'd done a few of the bridges with us, so I'd like to thank him as well. So all of them, and obviously I want to thank massively everyone that's donated and shared and posted anything in this time to raise money for the Missing Foundation. I know Barry and Margaret are overwhelmed and very thankful for everyone's support.
Brilliant. Well done, Kelly. Moving on, being a Millwall fan since you were young, Kelly, how did it feel to put on the Lionesses goalkeeper shirt this season?
Oh, it was an absolute dream come true, to be honest. Never did I think, especially not being funny, my age is getting on a little bit, and never did I think that I would actually put that jersey on. So it was an absolute dream for me.
How did it all come about? Was it due to the changeover at the beginning of the season and the trials, etc., and you went along? How did it come about?
Yeah, it was that, basically, that obviously everything that happened with the changeover and the split, and they put out for trials because they needed new players, and I basically just decided to go for it and give it my all and see whether I could get in, and luckily enough I made it all through all the trials and everything else, and hard work paid off in the end.
Brilliant. It must have been such a buzz when you finally got that call from Colin saying, yeah, Kelly, you're going to have the show.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. He's been an amazing manager for me this year. I mean, he's always said that he wanted me around no matter what, because he thinks obviously maybe that I help the team, the morale, like everyone be together, and it has been an absolute amazing season. I would not have changed it for the world, like memories for life, definitely, and teammates that have turned into friends for life.
That's really good. So you said to me earlier, Kelly, that it might be your penultimate season or last season. Do you think you might get another season and then maybe go into coaching and work alongside Colin, etc.? Is that something?
Well, I have said that if I was needed, then I might sort of stay on for a bit longer, whether it's playing or whatever else. But yeah, I am looking into. I've done my FA level 1 already, So that's already been done. I'd like to maybe do goalkeeping level 1 and then go from there. And I just want to help the team as much as possible, push them back to where they should be, back in the Championship at least, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we mentioned it as we were chatting as well. Do you think will get notched up because of the way we were playing and how well we were beating teams this season?
I think the FA do need to look at it. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, no one else's. I don't think it's fair. I mean, they're the ones that put us into that tier in my eyes. And if you look at some of the results, I don't think it'd be fair to make you have another season exactly the same as that. And
exactly. And you've also got to think of the other clubs. They want some competitive football. I don't want to. Oh God, we've got Millwall this week. We're going to get drummed 15-0 again. It's also got to think.
Oh yeah.
As well.
No, definitely. I mean, I can remember one of the games, and I come off the pitch and said to the other team, "You should be proud. You gave 110%." Do you know what I mean? They got pretty smashed, and they were gutted, absolutely gutted, and it wasn't nice to see people feel like that. So for me, I was just like, look, you've done your club proud.
Yeah.
You gave 110% to the end of the game, never gave up. You should be proud of yourselves. Don't be walking out of here with your heads down, because you shouldn't.
Oh,
but that's what the FA have done by putting us in that tier.
Yeah, exactly.
They've made other clubs feel bad, and I think it's wrong.
So how many tiers down? Is it 6 tiers down for the Championship now?
We're in the 6th tier at the moment, yeah. So obviously the first tier is the Super League, and then the second is Championship.
Yeah, you usually should be in at 4 or 3 at least, shouldn't we, really? With the players.
It'd be nice, I think it'd be very nice once we're sitting in 4th tier and then progress, because you don't want to jump too quickly. You want to build. No. We're obviously just started to build, and we want to build a team that's gelled together and solid, you know, and work the way up.
Yeah, exactly. And Colin being of such a good management level as well, he could do that.
Yeah, definitely. His knowledge of the game and everything else is unreal, you know. And for me, I'd say the greatest manager that I've ever played for.
Brilliant. So you recently also become a Millwall Community Trust Ambassador, Kelly. What does that involve, and who else do you know as from the first team that are ambassadors as well?
So that just came about. I got asked to go and do the Santa Dash, start the Santa Dash at Christmas. Sean Daly basically asked me to come down and do that, and I was happy to do it. So went down and started the dash, and we went along. It was a great day, and he asked me that day basically would I like to be an ambassador. So I was over the moon, to be honest, and accepted.
Excellent.
And and then I think it came out on New Year's Day, I think it was, about being ambassador. And then since then, I've been down to Dockland Settlement to see the girls down there. There's a small group of them that go down there. Great coach down there, Gary, and a couple of the first team players. Well, one of the first team players, she goes down and sees over that sort of thing with the girls. And it was just doing sort of stuff like that. I just want to help in the community and make people enjoy football and that kind of thing, really.
Brilliant. I know one or two of the first team players are involved as well. Who do you know from the first team that you've maybe come across?
I mean, obviously know that a lot of the first team are ambassadors. So you've obviously got Ben Thompson, Jed Wallace is, I think, disabilities ambassador, and then you've got ex-players also like Jimmy Carter, who's an ambassador of the trust.
Oh, fantastic. Is Jimmy still involved, even though he's moved on as well?
Yes, he is still involved, yeah.
That's
really
very
good.
Now that the Championship season is looking increasingly likely to finish with the Lions sitting in 8th, just 2 points off the playoffs, what do you think our chances are of Millwall actually making the playoffs when the final 9 games have been played?
I think they've got an absolute wonderful chance of getting in there, because if they can take that run that they had just before everything that happened, it was an amazing run that they were on, and I just think the team had gelled so well. So it's keeping all of those players together, making sure they're obviously all fully fit as well. I think we've got a massive chance to be in there. And everyone loves an underdog, so I think, do you know what I mean? Definitely hope that we do get in there and we get another trip to Wembley.
Exactly. And there's always one team that makes that run for the end of the season. Okay, is albeit with a nice big summer holiday in the middle of this year, that makes that run, knocks on the door and nips in, and without tempting fate, 9 times out of 10, that team's the one who's got the momentum and shocks everyone in the playoffs and sometimes makes it, don't they?
Oh, that's it. No, definitely. It's always that one that it's mad. You look, seasons gone past. It's not always the person who's finished in third just missed out, and it's always that one that just nips in at the bottom and seems to be on a good run and have the momentum and take it through.
Yeah, exactly. And thoughts on Gary Rowett, because he's the one who's driving that momentum at the moment.
Oh, I think he's an amazing man, absolute great manager. He's the way he is with the players and everything else. He just knows the game so well that he's not worried about changing it up, different formations for different teams. I think he really is into like the analysis side of the games and does look at every team as an individual that they're playing, and goes through things very well in that case.
Have you actually had a chance to meet him? Did he get involved with the Lionesses at all, or has he been down?
I haven't met him through the Lionesses. I met him for the Santa Dash just the once. Basically, when they finished the dash, he came out and gave them their medals. But what it was, he was driving into Millwall, and on his way in, he see obviously the Santa, everyone dressed up in the blue Santa outfits and running along the road. And from what I heard from some of the runners, they were saying that he was bibbing at them and like saying well done and all the rest of it.
That's
and
lovely.
Then when he came in, he literally come out straight onto the pitch for them finishing and gave out the medals and stood there having a chat with everyone and everything else. So I think he's a very down-to-earth guy. He loves Millwall. He loves the work that they do in the community, from what I can see. And I think he's a great addition to the Millwall family, to be honest.
Fantastic. And then one final question to round it up then, Kelly. Who has been your legend through your Millwall life so far? Who stands out as the one?
Well, you say there's one. I'm going to be a bit bad and say two.
That's fine.
So
I have 3.
Neil Harris, obviously, watching the old-time goal scorer, has always been that way. I've met him quite a few times. We have the same birthday, so sort of like tied that way as well. He is actually a year younger than me, though. But met him a few times with his family. Such an amazing guy, and the way he was on the pitch, he was probably the one. But the other one that has always got that soft spot has to be Jimmy Abdu. Just absolutely epitomising Millwall player. Always gave 110%. You couldn't even tell if he was fasting or not because he never let anything show that he was.
Exactly.
Obviously, everyone probably knows that one of his childs was quite ill at one time. He just carried on playing through that, giving 110%. And for me, that's why he's another one that I have to say there's two.
And I also have a thank you to Jimmy, because the last season we got promoted from Division 1, he wasn't even really in the team. He was sort of on the outskirts. Ben Thompson had knocked him out of the team. And I was listening to the commentary on Sunday when they showed the game again against Bradford. And they said that Jimmy's come in because Ben was just young at the time, still a little bit of experience, and Abdi just gave us that extra bit of edge in the middle. Yeah. Ben's going to go on to be a Millwall legend, but Abdi at that point was a Millwall legend, and he just gave us that bit of bite in the midfield and just took us that edge and helped gel the team that little bit more to take us up that season.
Yeah, I just think he's one of those players that if you were playing with him, seeing what he does, it'd make you want to do 10 times more than what you're doing, because I just think he's got that, and such a lovely guy. I mean, I've met him a couple of times and always time to talk to the fans and everything else. I just think, no wonder we had a great team at that time.
We did. Well, thank you, Kelly. It's been
You're welcome.
Talking to you, and take care.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we listen to that, and then we say, you can still support Kelly, having done what she did for such a great cause, the Mizzen Foundation. Just open GoFundMe UK in your internet browser and search for 21 Bridges in memory of Jimmy Mizzen and make your donation. Yeah, she's an all-round character. There's the player for the Lionesses. There's the ambassador for the Millwall Community Trust, and now a big style fundraiser. And gosh, she did do well over those 21 bridges. And there was just her and her friend who made it. You couldn't have a great crowd as it would have been had we not been in this pandemic. But they've done well, and if you can add to their sponsorship, it would be wonderful. I suppose looking at how things have happened for Kelly, particularly, as she's been a fan as a girl and a woman, and then having the opportunity through, I suppose, the unlucky situation that was us losing the Millwall Lionesses championship slot because they got taken over by City Lionesses, and then bringing a side back in that was pushed down to 6th place in the pyramid. But that for her, that unlocked another key. I mean, how would you feel to be in that situation, Bethany?
Oh, I'd love it. My dad probably wouldn't let me play for any other club if I had the option to. It would just be Millwall or no dice for me. It would absolutely be a dream to wear a Millwall shirt and play in the Millwall shirt. I'd love to think how she's feeling in her kit. It must be amazing.
I reckon, well, she says it as much herself. It was a dream come true. There's no doubt about it.
You can see that.
Ted, considering the issue of how they ended up being put into the 6th tier, which when you look at the setup that Millwall's got, the coaching staff that they've got, the football ground over at the old Fisher ground over at Rotherhithe, were people walking around with blinkers on when they looked at what we were able or capable of doing in putting us where they put us?
Well, let me first say, Eamonn, the reason I bought the 2 ladies' shirts out of the club shop was to give a hint towards the Lionesses that I might be available when I realised they got put down a few things. I wanted to be like Kelly. I'd love to have played for Millwall in any sort of situation. But it is farcical, really, where they finished up the Lionesses 6 leagues down, because Kelly said in her interview that winning games 15-0 gives no pleasure to anyone, especially the side that you're playing against, obviously. And she felt that she had to say to them, listen, you played well, you give it your all. And for women's football in this country, where they're trying to obviously build it up, I mean, you'll be sides will be sort of drifting away if they're getting beaten 15-0 every week. So aside with the capabilities that the Lionesses have got, in the whole circumstances of what went on, I know Jeff was very, adamant that there was no way they should have gone down to the 6th league. I mean, I think if they'd gone to the 3rd, maybe the 4th, I don't know, then at least that would have been roughly where the talent within the Lionesses should have been, and they could have built their way back up from there. But sticking them down in the 6th league, letting them go out and win 15-0 was no good for the Lionesses, and it certainly wasn't any good for the opposition that they've been playing.
No, not at all.
People need to have a long, hard look at themselves over that one, I think.
Yeah. Let's hope they get bumped up. I know that's Colin Reed's belief, and it's destroying. I mean, one side pulled out that league because they were just getting absolutely hammered. But,
football's about being competitive, Eamonn, whether it's in whatever, and when you're talking about the women's league now, which is stronger to a certain extent than it's ever been, with professionalism beginning to come in to certain clubs, you still have to look after the lower leagues, and by putting them down there like that, it was a crazy decision by the usual people that you never ever meet, these guys that make these decisions.
No.
So,
I know you spoke about the Millwall Community Trust before, James, and what it does and what it doesn't do. But the ambassadors are a wonderful arrangement, and Kelly spoke about those. What's your feeling about the trust and what it does? Has it been enhanced?
Yeah, it's great to help out the community and to to just give back to what they give to it. I feel that it can only be a good thing for the club as well as on a commercial level. And yeah, it's just just great for it.
Karl, you mentioned previously about the things that Millwall get up to as a club and what they do and how they become the family club of the year. I suppose Kelly Webster epitomises some of that spirit, makes that shining example of what Millwall does do in the community reality. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I would. It just happens to be something at the moment. We could be recording this 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago. There's always a great story to tell. And as you say, the club will always follow that. And it's, wonderful what Kelly's doing with the 21 bridges is going to be something that's done on a regular basis. And I think more and more people will join. I think I'll be joining next year. And I'm sure there'll be many others. I know there's a couple of people at Millwall that were interested in trying to tag along. I don't know if they managed to this year, but I know they definitely put some pennies behind it. So, no, it's a wonderful cause. It's a shame that we have to do these sort of things in memory of people, but nonetheless, it's mind-blowing, really. I can imagine the figure. I'm looking forward to seeing the actual final amount that they've actually saved.
Yeah, it'd be something worth looking at. Yeah, so definitely Bethany and I suppose James, and if Ted can get away from his Monopoly board, maybe he'll come along as well. Right.
Maybe have to do the Monopoly board up.
Well done, Kelly. Keep up the good work, and we wish you well. We absolutely wish you well.
Yeah, can I just say, Kelly's a wonderful person. I love her to bits, and she deserved the ambassador role, and she deserved her dream to come true to play for the Lionesses. So, well done, Kel.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We have a number of players on loan, and an article in the Brighton and Hove Independent prompted the thought, our Lone Stars, might we keep them? The B&H Independent had Jason Mbulu as the first on their review of players, out on loan, a contract with Brighton until 2023. He's been with Millwall. The Irish midfielder also plays for the under-21 side. He's performed well on loan at Millwall this season, a player Albion have high hopes for and a player they believe can make the step up to the Premier. Chances of breaking into the first team are good, but perhaps not next season. And they only rated him 7 out of 10, which I thought was odd. What do you reckon, Bethany?
I think 7 out of 10 is really low for Jason Mbulu. I'd have given him at least an 8 or a 9. I'd love to keep him at the club. He's hard-working. He's got a lot of skill, the kind of skill that you can't buy, and he's prepared to take a chance. He's the sort of player that I want to see as a Millwall fan. He's got that Millwall spirit, but whether we will be able to keep him, I don't know. I think it just all depends on what Brighton end up doing this season, but I'd love him to stay. I think we could definitely sort of improve his skill set for at least another season, and then when he does want to go into Premier League football, he'll, be really successful. He could go really far, Jason Mbulu.
Yeah. What do you think our chances are of keeping hold of or securing the services of Jason Mbulu then, Karl?
In regards signing Mbulu full-time, unfortunately, I can't see that. I think he's too good for Millwall on a permanent basis. As for next season, I think a lot will depend on if Brighton stay up. I think if Brighton stay in the Premier League, that sort of strengthens our hand in regards to keeping him for another season, because I think if they get relegated, Brighton will lose a few players. They'll be looking to blood the likes of Mbulu, especially with his Championship experience. Yes. So we want Brighton to stay up, basically, because there's a very good chance then we'll keep Mbulu for another season. And, he's bedded in straight away. He's a young player full of confidence. Well, I say full of confidence. Off the pitch, when I've spoken to him, he's quite shy. He talks very quietly. He's likes to keep himself to himself. He'll try and shy away when he sees you heading towards him with the microphone. But you put him on that football pitch, crossing the white line, and you've suddenly got a different animal. I've seen him regularly, and I'm sure you have as well,
Yeah.
be screaming at other players. I saw him tear a strip off Alex Pearce once when he wasn't happy with something Pearcey did, which, that's no mean feat taken on Pearcey. He's never shy, as I'm sure every referee in the Championship will tell you. Pearcey's never more than 3 inches from their ear roll when something goes against him. So that shows the confidence that Malumbi's got. And it's a shame that Smudge nicked that goal off him at Forest. But no, the future's bright for Jason Malumbi. Let's hope it's in a Millwall shirt.
Yeah, it'd be great, wouldn't it? James, what about you and Jason?
Yeah, it'll be tough to keep him. I'd definitely put him in my top 3 players of the season, behind Bart and Jed. Again, I think it will depend on how Brighton season pans out. In the Premier League, they've got, already they've got, the likes of Pascal Gross, Aaron Moy, Davy Proper in their midfield. And obviously they've all got Premier League experience. So I suppose if Brighton do go down, it will be more likely that they'll want him because, players will be going on to pastures new. However, if Brighton do end up staying in the Premier League, I reckon we've got a very good chance of keeping him for another season.
That is a big possibility. And don't forget, Carl, if you're ever looking for someone to substitute you on a Saturday or a midweek game, James knows all the players in the Premiership and the Championship, and it would be no problem for him to talk through who he is. And not only that, he's got 20/20 vision. Yeah, it'd be great if we could hold on to Jason. But is it really practical, Ted?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that could happen, as we know, at this moment in time. We could be in the Premier League and Brighton could be in the Championship. So, if that was the case, I don't see that they would allow him to come to us. But if it stays as it is, i.e. Us in the Championship and Brighton in the thing, I think there's a chance we'll have him for a second year. I did say early in the season, Eamonn, I thought we had a gem. And I liken Jason Malumbi to Harry Kane, when we had Harry Kane on loan, who came to us a boy and he grew up with us, and Harry himself has said that. And I think Jason has done the same. Jason Malumbi, he's, in my opinion, he's a far better player now than he was when he first started. You could see that. He's grown. It's games, playing competitive matches at the Championship level that he will drive himself to be. And I think he will go on to have a career, as good as Harry Kane. I think he's that good. And I think he'll be Ireland's captain in years to come without any shadow of a doubt, because he's a leader out on the pitch as well, even though he's a young lad. You can see he's a typical, what I call, midfield player that you want, who demands the ball and demands things from the players around him. I think he's been an excellent loan signing for us. I'd love to see him here next year, but like I say, I think it all depends on how the season pans out for both Millwall and Brighton.
Yeah, he captains the Irish under-21s, and certainly on the FAI YouTube channel, when they interviewed him, he definitely said, I need to be playing first-team football next year. So it'll be interesting, particularly in light of what James said about the strength of Brighton's midfield, whether he'll get the chance. But moving on, Ryan Woods, he revealed after joining us on loan, and it's been a strange situation for Woods at Stoke, with the midfielder having been bought by the Potters from Brentford for a sizable fee following their relegation to the Premier League, in the hope that he would come in and stamp his authority over midfield. The midfielder has made a solid start to his time at Millwall, and you would expect him to be an important member of the Lions squad for the rest of the season. And it will then be interesting to see what happens with his long-term future in the summer. And, he was actually dropped out of the Stoke team by O'Neill. He must have been in the doldrums there entirely. Carl, so Ryan Woods, do you think he'll stay with us? Or do we need him?
With Ryan, he's definitely rated very highly by Gary Rowett. He's made no bones about that when he got Ryan in. We've only seen, obviously, a few games. You haven't seen that many of them. He was still sort of, I suppose, getting used to the team the first couple of games. He had a really good game at Forest, as most of the team did, or nearly all of the team did. But as for long term, it's hard to tell yet. He does sit very nicely within that central midfield position. We've got a lot of players there now, which is nice to have, as a Millwall fan. You look at the team now, you're looking at the centre midfield, you've got obviously Ben Thompson, you've got Williams, you've got Leonard, you've got Malumbi, you've got Woods. That's plenty of scope there to be getting on with. There's a genuine competition for places. And, Ryan Woods is definitely going to be in there with a shout. He's not going to be a player think, he's a bench player. He might get on here and there. If he's playing well, there's every chance he could be within the team. It worked well at Forest with him and Malumbi because it allowed Malumbi to push on a bit and he could just sit and just almost in front of the defence and just be that player that just breaks up possession, just lays the ball off nice and simple. I'd imagine once he's in and been playing regularly, he's the type of player that you'll see will become more and more influential in the team. But as of yet, obviously, he's been a bit in and out. So I'd say the jury's out to an extent, but there's definitely potential there. And I think he will become a Millwall player.
Well, of course you'd say that, wouldn't you? Yeah, I can understand that. How about you, James?
I'm going to be honest, I'm yet to see his full potential from what I saw of him at Brentford and Stoke. I saw him play against Birmingham and I didn't think he had the best of games. He kept making very odd decisions which led to the ball being given away. But then I saw him against Forest and he just completely stole the show, really. He tore that central defensive midfielder apart. I've seen bits of him that look good. I'd need to see a bit more consistency of him, but I'd like to see him and Ben Thompson form a partnership if we are to keep him, because I feel that with them two, they could just completely make it their own.
Yeah, I can see the value in that. Ted, how about yourself?
I think with Ryan Woods, Eamonn, he unfortunately, it's been unfortunate for him because he's not really had the run that I think he needs to show his full potential. I like the look of Woods. I think he's a terrific player. He didn't seem to do a lot with Stoke, but when he was playing for Brentford, he was certainly one of their star players. And I've got a couple of Brentford fans, friends of mine, and they were so gutted when he left. They thought he was fantastic, and I must admit, when he played against us, he looked a star. And I think there's more of Ryan Woods to come for Millwall if he stays with Millwall. I think he just needed a run of games to get himself in there. He's a good, solid midfield player that doesn't let you down. He's a 7 out of 10 player every week. He can even rise above that 7 to an 8 or a 9 at times, I think. Hopefully we will get him because I think he could be a star for us.
What about you, Bethany?
Yeah, I'd quite like to see him stay on. I really don't think that we've seen everything that he's got to give. I definitely think that he's got more to show us. We could see him potentially on a rotation with Thompson, in a partnership with Thompson. He gets his feet stuck in. He's a great tackler, so I'd love to see him stay. I definitely think there's more from Ryan Woods to offer us.
Actually, him and Malumbi look like a pair of terriers going at places sometimes. I was
just going to say, it would be nice at some point, because Gary Rowett does like to change his side around, but I wouldn't mind seeing all three of them in the middle of the park one day with Ben Thompson.
Yeah.
Thompson, Malumbi and Woods, I think,
Yeah.
Especially with Ben discovering this sort of forward position that he can play in, where he can get up. That would be very interesting to see.
It would. I'd like to see that. That would make a big difference. Not only that, then we'd keep Patricia Maslin happy as well.
Is that all it takes?
Well, allegedly. Anyhow, the other one, of course, is Mason Bennett. And Gary Wright said if I can get him to be the Mason Bennett that I know, then I think he can really offer us something strong. Not just on loan, but potentially permanently down the line. But we've got 4 months to find out which one it's going to be. It's on him, really, to go and perform, like he said, in his own words, make it almost impossible for Millwall to not want to sign him. Rat clearly wants him if he shows he can do the job. James, do you think he can do the job?
Well, first and foremost, I think Mason Bennett's come to the Den with a point to prove, considering his, off-the-field antics in the last year. Again, like Ryan Woods, the jury's still out for me. I've seen glimmers of brilliance from him against Forest and against Birmingham as well. We got some decent chances going for our strikers, but again, it's up to him. He's come to Millwall with a point to prove. It's up to him now to show Gary Rowett that he is good enough to play for this club on a permanent basis.
Yeah, I can see what you mean there. How about you, Bethany?
I kind of on the same side as well, really. He looked a good player, but I really don't think I've seen enough of him and how he could play. You know, we did see some great games from him, but I want to see more before I can make a judgment on whether we should keep him or not. The jury's still out for me.
Okay. Ted?
I think he gives us something that we haven't got, which is why he was brought into the side in the first place. Gary Rowett knows him better than any of us, and he seems to think there's something there. And from what he's shown, I mean, again, he's struggled to get going in a sense because he had a bit of an injury. Now he's had a couple of games and it's all stopped. But the couple of games he has played, certainly the last one against Forest, he showed a lot of potential for us, I think, Mason Bennett. He actually looks a Millwall type player. He's solid. He don't mind getting stuck in. I remember watching him last year, Eamonn, in the playoff semi-finals for Derby, and he frightened the lives out of defenders because he was one of them sort of players that they couldn't get rid of when they had the ball, and he wasn't afraid of taking you on when he had the ball. So I've seen enough of Mason Bennett as a footballer to say if he can get to the level that I see him at Derby, he could well be a very, very good addition.
Yeah, well, he's got 9 games to show us. Karl, what do you think?
Well, I think the potential with Mason is huge. In all honesty, he gives us something we don't have. When you're looking at somebody down the wing, because he's not just fast, but it's also he's a very, very stocky player. His strength. We look at our wingers at the moment. Obviously, you've got Fergie, Connor, Aiden, Yuri, obviously Jed on the right hand side. But when Mason's played, it's that strength. As a fullback, you don't want to be up against a tricky winger, but you definitely don't want to be up against a winger with pace and strength. And as we saw that at Forest with the 2 goals that we scored from that left-hand side, he was heavily involved in both of those, one with the overlap with Murray and obviously the other with that wonderful pullback for Malumbi's strike from the edge of the box. Yeah. Obviously, he's had problems off the pitch, shall we say, to put it mildly. So is this the last chance saloon for Mason? Maybe. But again, like with Ryan, Gary trusts him, thinks he's got a point to prove. And, as a lot of managers do, when you have players like Mason, you're always the manager thinks, I can change you. I can get him concentrating purely on his football. And if we can do that, I think it's a no-brainer. If we can get Mason Bennett focused, he's a Millwall player, no question.
Okay. Well, that's all from us again this week, and we hope you join us from 8 p.m. next Friday. In the meantime, we must not forget those who have lost their lives during this pandemic. Our thoughts go out to their families, friends, and those that may have cared for them. As more of us return to our places of work, we still continue to be immensely grateful for the incredible work each and every one of our key workers undertakes in these very challenging times. We recognise your bravery and commitment, and thank you for taking care of us when we needed it most. You continue to be our heroes. To all, take care and be alert to the risks that the virus presents. Lastly, a big thank you for our guest Karl Bates, and we can't wait to hear his voice across the airways and on TV, commentating on the Lions in action.
Thanks very much for having me. As always, a pleasure to be chatting Millwall with you guys.
And we'll have you back, that's for sure. And thanks to the Nolet team of James Kelly.
Thank you very much, Eamonn. Pleasure as always.
Bethany Warren.
Thank you. Good night.
And Ted Robinson.
Cheers, Eamonn. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Ted. Well, that's all from me, but get ready to start roaring in front of your TV set. It can't be long now. Until the next time, good night.